Today I'm going to share with you, I'm going to pull back the curtain on the number one hiring secret that I've had over the last 31 years of hiring people in small business, 22 years of coaching pro hockey and amateur hockey. I've literally hired, recruited, traded, cut, and fired hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees, blue chip athletes, prospects. And I think that I have as much experience, real world, no BS from the trenches experience when it comes to hiring the right people for your small business, inviting the right people into your company as anybody else that walks on God's blue earth. MichaelMcLean.coach. I'm a former ex-pro and amateur hockey coach, championship team owner. If you like these daily walking and talking, mental kick in the pants, broken iPhone videos, you can subscribe for free. There's nothing to buy. MichaelMcLean.coach. And if you like these videos, I appreciate if you subscribe or comment below. I love to hear from my friends and the peanut gallery. So I've been in the hiring and firing business in sports and in small business for the last 30 years. I've literally had employees since I had my window cleaning business when I was 15 years old. I've had employees in the barbershop business. I grew the insurance business to 23 employees when they all showed up. And also pro and amateur coaching. You're always dealing with staff. You're always hiring, you're always recruiting, you're always reversing mistakes. And admittedly, I like to think that sales and marketing is the number one thing in business. But at the end of the day, and I hate it, is that if you don't have a handful of great people, if you don't have a business partner like I do in Mark Andre, if you don't find the diamonds, if you don't find the top 1% of 1%ers, you're going to have a hell of a time making money as a small business owner and entrepreneur. You gotta, unfortunately, have some people working for you. I've started companies with 2 people, 1 person, all the way up to 23. But really, it's our most expensive and it's our biggest headache in business. I don't care if you have 1 employee. I don't care if you have a virtual assistant. I don't care if you have 23 people. At the end of the day, the fewer the better. But the ones that you do allow into your badass world, they gotta be outstanding. They gotta be tremendous, because your marketing and your advertising and all that stuff can be all dialed in. But if you're filling your business with leads and buyers and prospects and referrals, and you don't have the people, the staff to make it happen, it's not long until it's just a mess. So being able to recruit and hire and keep great people is important. Now, I want to share with you today and actually answer a question that I get from the peanut gallery all the time is, Michael, is there a number one secret that you've used to hire over the last 30 years? And if I have to boil it down, I hate that question, by the way. There's not really one secret for anything. But when it comes to hiring people and not hiring people, most importantly, I have a secret that I'll share with you now that's made the biggest difference in me not hiring the wrong people. And I'll use the example of hiring an executive assistant, hiring a marketing director. I've had the privilege and good fortune of hiring 3 magnificent marketing directors and personal assistants. The first person that I hired way back in the insurance day to free up my time was a person by the name of Stephanie Pender. Stephanie and I worked together in the insurance business for a number of years. I was the idea guy. I opened the loop and she closed the loop. She was the person that got all of my flyers and my postcards and my videos up and going. It was my idea, and she made sure that the idea came into reality. And Stephanie and I had worked for a few years, and she was a loop closer and an outstanding team member. Secondly, after Stephanie had to step aside because of health issues, I hired a woman by the name of Linda Bartlett, and Linda was a productive machine. She literally would work day and night. She would, if I opened up a loop, she would immediately close it. She was one of these people who had a to-do list, one of those rare people that can multitask and get the job done. And we worked together again for years. She helped me with the hockey team, the insurance business, the barber shop. She was a get things done personal assistant. And then the last person that I hired that you may or may not be familiar with was Leanne Brennan. And Leanne worked with Marc-Andre and I up until last month. And Leanne again was a recruit. None of these people really applied. I recruited them. I saw them in other jobs. I saw how effective they were. I saw how hardworking they were. I saw how disciplined they were. I saw how they had alligator skin. And I recruited them when I needed a marketing director and a personal assistant. So Leanne, I recruited after having hired her and her cleaning company for a number of years. I just said to myself, there's a person, if I'm ever in need of buying more time, if I need a Jill of all trades, then Leanne would be a potential person, and she was. So Leanne worked with Marc-Andre and I again for a number of years, and then she's decided to do something different. All these jobs have expiry dates, especially when you're an executive assistant or a marketing director who's working 6.5 days a year with a week with a family. It can be very, very demanding working for entrepreneurs like me and you, and that's just the reality of the business. But here's the number one thing when I hired these three people as an example. It's the same for my sales team. It's the same when I recruited Marc-Andre as an employee, as a hockey coach, as a business owner. It always starts the same. And here's the writer downer to remember whenever you're hiring somebody into your business world, regardless of what position they're gonna fill. Remember this, okay? 3 simple letters. Figure it out. Figure, F-I-O. I call it my F.I.O. rule. F-I-O, meaning figure it out. Do you know how massive this is in 2024? Like, we now have 20 some years of internet under our belts. We've got since 2009 to present, all those years of smartphone usage, you know, Alexa, and we've got 2 decades minimum of people now that have no longer been thinking. So no deep thinking, no independent thought. You know, the 99% normies are, you know, it's been dumbed down to so many people will be applying for jobs with your company that have low IQ, but also, you know, they're suffering from manufactured mental illness. They come with all kinds of problems. And on top of that, they can't think. They can't think. If you make them think, they haven't used their prefrontal cortex in so long that they can't think. And I find this with even the best people that I've hired. They're not used to reading anymore. They're not used to solitude. They're not used to writing. They've microwaved their prefrontal cortex. So this is why this rule is critical in your business. Do not let anybody near your business. Make sure this is the focal point of the hiring process. Michael, what do you ask people when you hire? What do you look for? Well, other than a profitable employee, I'm not going to hire somebody who's not going to be a profitable employee. I don't give a shit whether they're black, white, somebody or nobody. I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to bring somebody into my business that's going to help us make more money. That's most important, you know, and if they don't have the right attitude and they don't have the right work ethic, they're not going to be able to do that. So, you know, for me, they've got to have that figure it out mentality, which is rare as hen's teeth in 2024. And it's not just young people. I mean, you can pile on young people all you want. I work with kids in sports from age 4 all the way up to 20. So don't tell me about teenagers and children. I mean, I'm sitting there now and the boomers are checked out. The boomers haven't been thinking for 20 years. So it's across the board. With that said, I'm biased towards hiring older and more mature people when I have the opportunity. But in my case, I mean, Marc-Andre's 25-year-old. I mean, there's great young people, but you got to test them. And there's multiple ways of doing this, but you've got to use the F.I.O. Rule when it comes to hiring anybody in your life. And this is the same with vendors or people that clean your pool or people that, you know, a virtual assistant or an executive assistant or a contractor, anybody. You hire somebody to build your house. It does not matter. Your car mechanic, like, figure it out. And the best test for this is when you're interviewing, and I do the Steve Jobs thing. I take serious candidates for a long walk. We just go for an hour walk and we talk. Why do we walk? We walk because people can't bullshit you. They can't buffalo you as much when they're walking because it's a major pattern interrupt, right? That's how Steve Jobs did it at Apple. He would take people that he was considering to hire to work with him, top engineers and developers, and they've got all the cliches, right? He would pattern interrupt those people, take them on a tech-free walk, and he would literally grind them down with questions. He made those fuckers think and think they would. So we've got generations and generations now of adults that can't think because, you know what, how do you spell this? Spell check. Who was the, you know, the 13th president of the United States? Alexa, tell us this, tell us that. Where's the restaurant? We don't use maps anywhere anymore. We don't think at all. There's no trivia, there's no knowledge, there's no history. Most people are deep as a puddle, okay? That's a writer downer. Most people that are gonna try and enter your business are deep as a puddle. I mean, they know what they know on scrolling social media. They have no depth of history. They don't know what happened 5 years ago. They don't know what happened 20 years ago. They don't know the history of your business. They don't know what happened yesterday. But you better grind. You better have a situation, an environment when people apply for a job, you test their figure it out capacity and ability. So just before I came out here for my morning walk, my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, made the mistake of, Krista's at the gym this morning, and Emery she said, how do you spell, and whatever it was. And I just said, figure it out. I'm not gonna tell you, we don't let her use spell check. She's got this big Webster dictionary that we bought years ago. Figure it out. Don't ask me don't ask me to stop what I'm doing and then figure it out. In other words, stop taking the easy way out. So she smartened up. She went in, she grabbed the Webster's dictionary. It took her, 60 seconds. She looked it up and then she learned all the different ways for that. That's the thing about looking up things, is when it's not on a screen, you learn all the different plural, the different ways that a specific word can be used. But figure it F-I-O, and she did. Now, if I just answer that question for her, how do you spell turtle? Well, first of all, she doesn't learn jack shit because then it's just the easy way. Like, I'm making her do difficult things. And that's not the most difficult thing in the world, but figure it fucking out. Nothing drives me crazier. My wife, Krista, she knows. If somebody, there's nothing that upsets me more than at my age and at my point in my career, if you want to get on my wrong side, if you want to genuinely get on my wrong side, if you want to see the other side of MJM, all you have to do as a hockey player, as an employee, as a family member, it doesn't matter, is waste my fucking time. Waste, okay, a second of my time, waste part of my Sunday, waste my Saturday, ask me something, send me a stupid email, try and text me, whatever it is, because you're not willing to think and figure it out. I'm telling you right now, I curate all those people out of my world. The second I find out that somebody is a low IQ jackass, where, I mean, if I have to figure it out, what was the point of me hiring you to build a house? If I have to figure out all this stuff, what was the point of me hiring you as a real estate agent? What was the point of me hiring you as a personal executive if every time there's a roadblock, you just take the easy way out and turn and ask me? And admittedly, this is such normal behavior that Stephanie tried that horse shit with me, Linda tried that horse shit, and Leanne did. And all three of them rebounded nicely, but there was no sense in me, you know, coddling them. I hired them to close loops. I hired them to figure things out. What does an executive assistant do? They F.I.O. all day. They figure it out. I can figure it out, but my hour's worth $4,000, or I don't want to do it. I don't need to be figuring it out. That's their job. They're loop closers. Same thing with your sales guys. Like, if they have silly questions, it's like, figure it out and close the fucking sale. And the same with the salespeople. Like, the reason people do this now is because they've lost their balls, right? They've lost their mental balls. You know, if they get you to figure it out, if they get you to do the thinking for them, then if something goes south, they take a haircut on this or something goes wrong, well, guess what? It's not my fault. It's not my fault. So I push accountability back onto people. I push standards onto people. But most importantly, I make them fucking well think. And this is something that takes a while. Like, you know, most recently I hired Leanne, and I said, you know, she's like, well, what's my job? I said, your job is to do whatever I wake up that morning and come up with. So there's no template. There's no, oh, well, this is what your job entails. I said, if I wake up and I need somebody to cut the lawn, you need to figure out who that is going to be. If I wake up and say, okay, I'm going to write a new book, or if I want to do this, or I need the car taken in, or I need it doesn't really matter. It's just F.I.O. Your job is to figure it out. So she, you know, as an entrepreneur, knew a little bit about this, but I'll never forget, after the first day, she had this whole list of questions, and questions are fine. Like, I'm all for questions, okay? But you better have done everything you can to figure it out before you bring me that horse shit. Okay, I don't need more lists in my life. I don't need more lists. I need less. Okay, I need less. I'm hiring her to buy time. I'm in business with Marc-Andre for him to figure stuff out that he's good at figuring out. And I'm buying time, right? When I pay him, I'm buying time. So the last thing I need is slingshot effects where, well, so she gives me this list, okay, and nobody was any different. All the employees are always the same, and they try to hand it back to you, right? And I'll never forget Wayne Maxter, my hockey mentor. Wayne coached the Detroit Red Wings when he was 34, just an incredible teacher. I mean, he brought me into pro hockey when I was 24. Unheard of. I never played pro hockey, but I entered pro hockey at 24 as his assistant coach. And he used to preach to me and the players. He's like, be part of the fucking solution. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution, never part of the problem. And that's what he looked for in his captains and his leaders. Be part of the problem. And the other thing that used to drive Maxner crazy, he would go off the reservation on this stuff. I mean, totally postal for good reason. And this is back 25 years. He would say, listen, he'd go, be a problem solver, not a problem announcer. I'll never forget that. That sticks in my mind to this day. You know, you have an assistant, or you have a salesperson, or you have a service person, or you have somebody who cleans your house, or you have somebody that cleans your pool. And every second time they come to you with the announcement, they're addicted to their drama. They're addicted to their unhappiness. They're addicted to whatever the hell it is. So they always come to you to announce the breaking news. Oh, by the way, we need a new filter for the pool. Well, get the fucking filter. Don't ever, ever come to me with that low end stuff. Well, you know, your lawnmower needs the blade sharpened. I'm like, sharpen the blades. And you have, I did this with my assistant coaches, my hockey players like Marc-Andre and Brian and Bill, even guys like that. Like, I'm like, don't bring me that horse shit that you can figure out yourself. F.I.O, figure it out. You know, we're down 2-0 in a series in the finals. It's like, oh, you know, the referee wasn't good. I stopped that stuff dead. What can we control? What can we control as coaches? And well, you know, their power play is killing me, is killing us. So I'm like, Marc-Andre's the video coach, and Bill's an assistant coach, and Brian. I'm like, F.I.O, figure it the fuck out. And then they go to work, right? Like Marc-Andre breaks down 18 hours of film. I got it, coach. Here's what we can do to correct this problem. Not announcing it. Oh, their power play is so powerful, Michael. How is that helpful? Figure it out. Don't be an announcer, and don't hire people that are problem announcers. Oh, did you hear the car quit? Oh, did you hear our site was down? Oh, did you hear the algorithm on Facebook has changed? Like, who gives a shit? You know, that's loser talk. So I can't emphasize enough, F.I.O. When you're testing people, when you're interviewing people, see if they can think. Most likely they can't. So then you're going to hire a person for 50 grand or 100 grand, whatever the hell you're going to pay them. And all they're going to do is they're going to do the low end stuff that they can do without thinking. And then they're going to throw all this shit back on your plate. They're going to interrupt you. They're going to suck your energy. They're going to suck your time. They're just vampires. And that's because they can't think. And I'll say one more thing about this before I go off here. I work on my people to make them think. There's a reason I made my hockey players, my captains, read books. There's a reason I'm constantly sending, I'm sending Leanne physical books, newsletters, Marc-Andre newsletters, books. Marc-Andre started working for me. He was making jack shit, and he's coming out of university and he's a superstar student. He only went to high school for 2 years because he's so fucking bright. And he only went to university for 2 years because he can do everything twice as fast as everybody. And his parents are brilliant. His sister's brilliant. I don't fucking care. I'm like, I hired this kid because he's smart. He's ethical, he's got high integrity, and he can F.I.O. He can figure it out. And I said to him, I gave him his first assignment when he started working for me, when we started working in this business 4 years ago. And I said, Mark, your first job is to read these 7 books. Well, most people would be like, read books? Are you kidding me? I can't read, I'd have to think. But he's a guy who's not only got super intelligence, but he's got some grit and some sandpaper and some hunger. So he F.I.O'd it, right? He figured it out. He never came back to me with, where would I find that Dan Kennedy book? Where would I get a hold of that book? It's older than me. That's the kind of shit, right? Where I'll have a client or a mastermind member or somebody say to me, Michael, you talked about the Gary Halbert ad. And they'll be like, where would I find that? Well, fucking goofy, where do you think you'd find it? It's called your best friend. It's called Google. All you do is type in Gary Halbert, okay, dating ad, and there it is. but that shit drives me crazy and I don't respond. And this is why people can't communicate with me. They can't call me. They can't email me. They have to fax. When people laugh, they're like, Michael, you make people fax you, or you make them go through Marc-Andre. Yeah, well, you know why? Because it makes them think. And most of the time, they figure it out for themselves. They're not going to sit down. They're not going to write a fax. And if they do, it's important. The faxes I get from my top guys are really important. And I respond to everyone. The mail I get, my white mail in my mailbox from people like you, it's important. It's like well-written, punctuality, thoughtful, and I respond to all my white mail. But as far as like somebody typing up an illiterate text or some iPhone junkie email, I don't tolerate it. I won't play in those rat poison swamps. Figure it out for yourself. Figure it out for yourself. So Leanne, Linda, Brian, Bill, everybody, it's all about you saying, when they try to push that onto you, stopping them and saying, okay, all of this stuff can be figured out, all of it. And I don't answer questions that only I can answer. And Mark's really good at this. Marc-Andre is really good. He knows I'm the writing guy, I'm the marketing guy, I'm the sales guy. So all of his questions to me are quality because it's my area of expertise. I don't go around asking him how to do the technology of our funnel. I don't ask him about how he sends the emails. I don't ask him about Berserker Mail because I'm not an expert in those areas. So, you know, I figure out my stuff and he figures out his stuff. But F.I.O. is the most important secret. And in today's world of non-thinkers, I mean, they can't, oh, my phone died, what should I do? Or, oh, it's snowing out, what should I do? And just more of it's coming. Like I'm a guy, I'm working with 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 10-year-olds in sports, okay? And I used to work with the pros and I used to work with the teenagers. But if you think things are tough now in terms of focus, in thinks of employees, are you kidding me? You have no idea what's coming unless you have young children. Like they can't think, they can't stay focused, they can't work, they can't last on the ice with me for 10 minutes. So you better get this F.I.O. in your brain and you better decide if you're going to ever add an employee, they better be worth 10x what you're paying them. So if you decide I'm going to have an executive assistant like Michael, Michael has a marketing director, so I'm going to be like him, no problem. Okay, I hired them for 40 grand, 50 grand and up. They better be worth 10x that to you. And the only way they're ever going to be worth 10x that to you is if it's F.I.O. all the time. Figure it out. Okay? Marc-Andre didn't even know what a landing page was. He had a marketing degree, but he didn't know what the hell, he didn't know what direct response was. But what did he do? He read those fucking 7 books like he was told to. He's coachable, right? So he didn't even know who Dan Candy was. He didn't know Bill Glazier. He didn't know Tim Grover. He didn't know Nick Saban. And now he's an expert in all this stuff because he's constantly immersed in F.I.O., figuring it out. Now, if I say, okay, I want the ad to look like this, I draw it out. I draw it out on a sketch pad. I draw it out with ink. My emails, he sends them. He designs the websites. I draw it out. I'm the Halbert behind it, right? I'm the Carlton behind it. But as far as the technology, he just figured it out. He figured out Berserker Mail. He figured out websites. He figured out landing pages. He figured out YouTube. He figured out Facebook. He figured out Instagram. He's figured it all out. And he figured it all out on his own. And he knows. He knows. Don't push it back at me. Figure it out. I've never worked with somebody in business who was better at figuring it out. Is it a coincidence he's my only business partner ever in history? I've never had a business partner. Not my dad, not my brother, not any of my coaches, not in hockey, I've never had a business partner. Because I run dictatorships, right? I don't run bureaucracy. I don't run free worlds. I mean, I'm a dictator when it comes to business and my 1% world. Okay, this is not a democracy. So Mark's my only business partner, and that's because of F.I.O. Figure it out. He can figure it out. He'll work all week. I won't talk to him for 2 or 3 days, and I'll phone him. And he never phones me. You know why he never phones me? Number one, he's 20-something. And number two, he's busy figuring it out. And then I'll get the odd email from him, the odd email. And it'll be a question about depth. You know, how would you write this copy? What would you use as the subject line? What would you use as the hook? What do you think of this hook? And those are the only questions you should have in your life. This is like the guy building your house, the home contractor. What kind of cement would you like to use, Ted? Oh, I don't know, the kind that fucking works. Like, it's just an epidemic. It's an epidemic of low IQ is what it is. And it's getting worse by the day. Dumb as dirt, as my grandpa would say. Fuck Michael, he's dumb as dirt. She's fucking dumb as dirt. He had no tolerance. This is back in the 80s. My grandfather, who ran a general store every day of his life but Christmas, he was the best. He'd run into some low IQ and he's like, that guy's fucking dumb as dirt. And that just shows you. Imagine him living now in 2024. So keep in mind, my friend, keep in mind when you're interviewing, when you're thinking of hiring, when you're thinking of firing, okay, are they able to figure it out? Do they have independence? Do they have autonomy? And if they don't, you might as well be doing the job yourself. I can figure it out. Okay, I could figure all that Marc-Andre does. It would take me decades because I'm a tech caveman. I'm an email caveman. But instead, I just hire a guy who's gifted, who's hardworking, who's got high integrity, and even he has to figure it out. He has to read the 7 books. He has to do the book reports. He has to learn the business. He didn't know anything about direct response. He didn't know the marketing business. He didn't know the book business. He didn't know the newsletter business. Now he's a top 1%er 5 years later. F.I.O. Figure it out. So talking about figuring it out, I'm starting a really cool mastermind, $9.97 a month. My masterminds have never been affordable for small business owners. I've charged 50 grand, 30 grand, and 10 grand. But at $9.97 a month, I'm looking for a handful of guys, even a gal. And we're gonna meet once a month. We're gonna meet live twice a year in person. And we're just gonna help each other as entrepreneurs and small business owners. It's all online except for 2 meetings. We'll probably meet here in Naples, and then we'll meet 6 months later somewhere, maybe Orlando or somewhere up north. It doesn't matter, we'll figure it out. But it's only $9.97 a month. You've got access to me. I'm gonna do some teaching once a month. We're gonna do some accountability. The training sessions will be a couple hours long, once a month. But if you need help, okay, building your own island of sanity, I call it. If you need some help building a world you never need to escape from, if you need some help building your own badass 1% world, and what is a badass 1% world? It means you live life and do business on your own terms, not my terms, not your dad's terms, not your mom's terms, not your wife's terms, your terms. If you need some help with that, Marc-Andre's email is below. You can apply Marc-Andre, Marc, M-A-R-C, at badassmillionaire.com. And there's also a link below. I'm calling it my Moneyball money and marketing mastermind. It'll be a year. You don't have to stay more than a month or whatever, but it's $9.97 a month. And we're gonna have some fun. I'm looking for a handful of elite, driven, and generous small business people to work with over the next year. If you're interested, apply below. The link is below. That's it. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate you subscribing, and I appreciate you not hiring the wrong people. People that don't deserve to work, that's too bad. If they can't figure things out, if people can't F.I.O, they should be replaced by AI. I mean, I'm telling you right now, if you can't think, if your kids can't think, if your employees can't think, they're gonna be absolutely replaced by artificial intelligence, or as Matt Fury calls it, artificial stupidity. The only reason artificial stupidity, it's working to make everybody dumb as fucking dirt. And if you're dumb as dirt, or your kids are dumb as dirt, or your employees are dumb as dirt, they're gonna be robotized out of this world. And only the thinkers will thrive. only the readers, only the copywriters, only the marketers, only the engineers, only the people that have something that can never be replaced. And what's the one thing in my mind? What's the one thing that can't be replaced by artificial stupidity? Thinking. Right now, artificial stupidity can actually outthink most people. Most people are low IQ. Most people are iPhone junkies. Most people are dopamine addicts. So yes, AI is going to kick their fucking ass. But if you're a thinker and you keep developing the prefrontal cortex, reading, studying, writing, training, you got nothing to worry about. The world is going to be yours. The world is going to be yours because F.I.O, you'll be able to figure it out. The only people that are going to be left around in business, and this is important, the only people that are going to be left around in business, okay, whether you're an owner, a founder, a CEO, or a salesperson, the only human beings that we're going to need soon are people that can F.I.O, and that includes you too. That includes you. If I can robot it, if I can AI it, if I can artificial stupidity it, I will. Because artificial intelligence is going to show up. It's not going to phone in sick. It's not going to be hungover. It's not going to be unionized, and it's not going to bring me headaches. So I'm telling you right now, the future belongs to the deep thinkers, to the people that are mentally tough and the people that can F.I.O. Figure it out. 2 words that changed my life, 2 words that can change yours. Be relentless.